What's up, man?
Not much. How are you?
Good. How come I can't see you?
There we go.
Oh. So, we're back again. We're going to talk about sleeping again because it's such an important issue. Why don't you introduce yourself, Adam? Tell everybody who you are.
My name is Adam Clark. I used to work down in Alabama and attend CrossFit Star Heart, but now I'm up in Atlanta. I'm the regional area manager for sleep services at Wellstar Health Systems.
Okay. So, you listened to the podcast last week?
I did. I've been listening to the last few podcasts.
Okay. So, what'd you think about it?
I liked it. I think sleep is a thing that's commonly overlooked a lot in people talk about their health, especially in athletic training. It's something that a lot of major league athletic teams are starting to take more interest in. Also, it's starting to flow down to the college level as far as just how much it affects your ability to be able to do what you do at the highest peak performance that you can.
Okay.
So the talk was really good. Covered some of the basics. There's definitely nothing wrong was said at all. Just some things I thought maybe we could expand on a little bit.
Sure.
I guess one of the biggest ones that I thought, there's a little more to it than that was you talked about alcohol and that your effect on sleep. It definitely disrupts your sleep, disrupts your REM cycles, and what it does is your first 2 to 3 hours of sleep, you're going to sleep great. It's going to be probably the best sleep you've ever had. But then after that, it becomes really disjointed and kind of messed up. And the biggest part that people don't realize is it takes about 3 days for you to actually get back to normal as far as that goes. So if you drink just on the weekends, on Saturday and Sunday, it's going to be Wednesday before you're really back to 100%. So then you've got, Thursday and Friday, and then if you drink every weekend, then you're just kind of doing this ongoing cycle. So you're never really getting back to 100% for very long. So it can definitely affect your workouts during the week.
Yeah, that's disappointing.
Right. So that's why I always thought that the workouts on Mondays at any place that I've gone to work out and do CrossFit is always usually feels awful. And it's usually based off of all weekend I ate like crap, drank, and didn't rest. And so now I'm walking into a workout I'm not prepared for.
Yeah, Mondays are always my hardest workout, or at least my worst performance. But I do drink. So maybe that's why. Maybe it's not just the alcohol and the overeating, but the disruption in my sleep patterns.
For sure, that can feed into it. Because, and you talked about it a little bit, but really while you're resting and while you're sleeping, that's your body's chance to really recover from everything. So if you shorten that, it's really affects everything. Like you're going to be more sore. You're going to be you're going to have a harder time focusing. All the things that you really need to be able to perform well are going to be affected. And that's if you just have a normal sleep pattern. If there's other issues going into it, that can affect it even on top of that. Like I know two of the biggest things we deal with is like sleep apnea or insomnia are probably the two biggest sleep disorders we see in the sleep center.
Okay. See, I'd always heard the alcohol sleep disruption was something I recently learned about. I've always thought the sleep disruption and the messing up your REM sleep was more so done. The studies were done using marijuana, usage. So like people who would smoke marijuana would have
Mhm.
like no REM sleep, and then they would actually like measure the brain waves after several days of doing this, smoking marijuana,
Mhm.
and then trying to go to sleep, that the brain waves would actually mimic REM sleep brain waves during the day while they were awake. So like the brain was functioning as if they were in that kind of dream sleep state.
Yeah, they're doing a lot more research now on marijuana or CBD oil or any of that kind of stuff as far as how it affects your sleep. I actually just got back from a sleep conference in San Antonio last month, and a lot of the talks were focused around marijuana and its effect on sleep, using it for different treatments, things like that. And they're still just trying to get a lot more research going, just because there's not a lot out there since it's only been legal in a few states for not too long. So,
Mhm.
but they are looking into that because it can help with, um, yeah, it can help with, pain is a big thing that they're talking about using that for.
Yeah.
But then also help some people that have insomnia and things like that. So they're really looking into what effect it has.
Yeah, but don't start smoking pot yet, people.
No,
We don't know.
I would not recommend it.
Inconclusive. All right. So the alcohol, sleep disruption, we've
Hmm.
expounded on that. What were some of the other things?
Caffeine. I liked a lot of the stuff that you talked about as far as caffeine and how that goes. I know that's a big thing that we talk to patients a lot about is their caffeine intake, especially if they're having insomnia problems. Really shouldn't have any caffeine really after probably 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Should be your last caffeinated beverage. You want to try to limit it as much as possible. You're spot on, regardless of how you feel that it's affecting your sleep. It is. So even if you can drink a Monster energy drink and then lay down and go to bed, that probably is another underlying issue that we probably need to deal
Yeah.
with. But that's not a good sign, and it doesn't make up for the fact that if you're having a lack of sleep, like the caffeine is going to cover up some of the symptoms, but you're also still going to have that crash when you come off of it. And then, of course, there's also the effect of the more caffeine you use, the more caffeine you need in order to achieve the same effect that you were having beforehand. So it can just really become an issue if you're not careful.
Okay. Yeah, that's a big thing with people. We sell the Killcliff Ignites,
Mhm.
and it's the evening class, and people start buying them up. I'm like, you realize that has caffeine in it, right? And they're like, oh yeah, I'll be fine. Okay. Um, yeah,
I
I
mean,
I personally can't. There was something I came across recently. Um, it was basically about fat metabolism and
mhm.
a particular either a hormone or an enzyme that's released. It's called like oxalin or something. Have you heard of
Mhm.
oxytocin? Basically, it's a hormone that's released when you're in a higher rate of fat metabolism. Like, say
Mhm.
you're doing like a low carb type diet, and your body's metabolizing most of your energy from fat instead of sugars. That this
Right.
hormone gets released, and um, the initial effects of it, it acts as like kind of an awakefulness type stimulation. And I think
Mhm.
I've noticed that too, like during dieting periods and stuff. When I try to lay down and go to sleep, I just can't. Like I'm not tired at all. You know.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Anything about
Initially,
that?
anytime if well, initially, if you make any changes to your diet, it's going to take some time for your body to kind of counteract that. I'm not as familiar on that side or for that
Yeah. Don't quote me on
particular
the
thing.
name of that. Don't quote me on the name of the hormone. It started with an O, I believe. But yeah, it was just something recent. I didn't know if you'd heard about it. But
That I
something.
had not heard of, but I mean, as far as just eating in general when it comes to sleep, we try, you should really try to not to eat within about 3 hours or so of bedtime.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just it can affect other things. If you have acid reflux, it's going to make that worse. Trying to lay flat after you eat. I know that's a big problem I have, so I have to avoid that, or I'm going to be eating Tums all night. But yeah, it can really affect because then your body is trying to work when it's sleeping
Well, it's
to
supposed to be
digest the
sleep.
food. So
That's tough for me because I usually don't get out of the gym until around 7:30 or 8. So I've
oh,
got to go to bed, got to go home, eat, and go to bed like within an hour, hour and a half most of the time.
oh yeah.
So I'm kind of
Well,
stuck.
it's and all these rules I'm giving you doesn't necessarily mean that I follow them either.
Yeah.
Most of my staff works night shifts, so there's times when I usually work out in the evening as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting calls or I have to go in to cover shifts or fix whatever. Um, you try to stick to the rules as best you can, but obviously life happens as well. So it's just the main things when I talk to patients or anyone about sleep or sleep hygiene, which is some of the things that you all talked about last time, as far as the having a cold, dark room and things like that, no TV on, all that good stuff. Is if you're not having a problem, then maybe you don't necessarily have to worry about these particular rules. But if you're having trouble sleeping or if you're having these issues, then these are the things you can really need to focus on. Like I like what you talked about with the cell phone and the cell phone light. That's an important thing because that's definitely becoming a bigger issue as we become more connected through technology. The other part that a lot of people forget about is setting your phone where it doesn't ding, vibrate, do whatever, giving all your notifications during the night, because that can also disrupt your sleep. Um, you know, if I get a message from one of my techs or they call me in the middle of the night, so I send an email out at 3 o'clock in the morning. All of a sudden, when I wake up in the morning, then I'll see that people responded at like 3:30 in the morning. People that work day shift or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So it's like, okay, well, why were you awake or why did you respond to
Mm-hmm.
that? That's crazy. It was just me trying to get it out. But I always make sure all of my notifications are turned off before I go to bed, so that doesn't disrupt my sleep at all.
Yeah, and the iPhone has a function called bedtime where you can
Yes.
set your phone to, it'll alert you when you're supposed to be starting to lay down and go to
Mm-hmm.
bed. It's like a 15 or 20-minute window before you're supposed to be asleep. And then when that kicks on, there's no notifications. Your phone is completely silent.
Yeah.
And you don't see all that stuff until the morning when you wake up and you have, 100 unread emails and text messages.
Right. Yes.
Uh,
Nothing's better than a group message that starts
oh, yeah.
going off at about 10 p.m. and then everybody else apparently was staying up late that night. So my phone's dinging all through till like midnight because I can't shut mine off because I'm on call.
So you mentioned that you work out in the evening. I
Yeah.
typically try to get my workouts done early in the day or at least before noon.
Mm-hmm.
What effect does that have, if any, on sleep? Working out.
Working out in the evening
Mm-hmm.
or, um,
I've heard some things.
yeah, I mean, it can affect your sleep as well. Like if you try to work out and then go to bed within a couple hours, it's going to be hard just because you've got all of that adrenaline pumping and everything else. So it's recommended to try to work out earlier. Um, I personally can't do it. I've tried to get up and go work out. There's
Maybe if
just
you
a
got a good
variety.
night's sleep, you could wake up early.
Uh,
Come to
yeah,
that 5
except
a.m.
for,
class.
yeah, no. Um, I guess you've forgotten about how much mobility I don't have. I really don't have any mobility at 5 o'clock in the morning. But no, it's really recommended to work out in the morning. It's a good way to kind of kickstart your metabolism, to really get you going. If you can do that, I struggle with that. I can't. I just can't do it. So I try not to. I basically am like a 5 p.m. or 5:15, whichever class it is. I go to that one, and it's kind of that one or bust for me. If it's any later, then it's hard. It kind of pushes everything else back. I think I've gone to a 7:15 class a couple of times, and then it was after midnight before I could get to bed because it just took too long to do everything else. It takes like an hour for me to stop sweating, and then to try to eat food, and then everything else. So just all that can really affect your sleep for sure.
Okay. Was there anything else that stood out to you that we needed to talk about or add in?
I think the biggest thing is if you are doing everything right, as far as, trying to go to bed at a decent time, cutting out the caffeine, you're exercising, you're eating right, and everything is all those things line up where you're doing the right thing and you're still having an issue sleeping or something about that, to definitely talk to your doctor about it. It can affect lots of other areas, not just your performance, but just your general health. It can make you have issues with blood pressure. It can affect diabetes, heart disease, everything. So it's really important. Like, sleep is a fairly new science for the most part. I mean, the person that discovered REM, like the whole REM cycle, rapid eye movement sleep, he was at the conference I was at last month. So those people are still like around and kicking.
Right.
Now, granted, he's in his like late 80s, but it's still a fairly new science. So they're still learning a lot about how it affects things. So it's very important to make sure if that's a problem that you're getting that checked out, just like anything else in your body. Another question I get asked a lot is about sleep trackers on your iWatch or Fitbit or anything like that, and how correct those may or may not be. For the most part, as far as getting a guess of like how much you may have slept that night, like total, it's okay. They do a decent job. But as far as the information they give you about deep sleep or any of that kind of stuff, that's just an algorithm that they are using to really kind of guess that. There's no, like, without an EEG hookup, they don't really know how much deep sleep you have. So I wouldn't hold that as the Bible for you if you're using those. But if you're starting to see, it's a good diagnosis of maybe there's something else going on. If your watch is telling you look like you were asleep for 7 or 8 hours every night and you're still exhausted in the morning, then maybe there's something else going on and you might need to get that checked out.
Okay. That's interesting. I've always wondered that, because I got the iWatch now and it doesn't do it, but you can download apps to it that supposedly do it. I had a Garmin that did it, and it would tell me I got all this deep sleep and stuff, and it's like I still feel exhausted.
Yeah, one of the talks
I think it just measured like how much you moved during the night. So if you had these non-movement periods, it's recording it as deep sleep is my best guess.
So if you sit and watch TV and you're real still, it's going to guess that you're asleep.
Right.
So it's not a great determiner on that part. One of the talks I went to was actually specifically about that. And they just talked about basically that they can't keep up with the number of devices that are coming out that say that they track sleep, to really even test them to decide whether or not they're effective before like the next version of the Fitbit or the iWatch or whatever comes out. Like, one study they had started and it used one called Jawbone, and that one's out of business now. They don't even do that one anymore. So it's just, and a lot of them won't share their data or their algorithm for them to be able to test it, because that's kind of a proprietary kind of issue that they're having.
Yeah.
So let's see. The only other thing is the amount of sleep. People will ask questions like, how much sleep should I get? Or people will say that I'm a short sleeper, or if I get 5 hours, I'm golden, or I can make up on the weekends, or things like that. For your average adult, your goal is to get at least 7 hours of sleep. 7 to 8 hours is a goal of trying to get sleep for the night. For your teenagers, it's going to be closer to like 10 hours of sleep. Children typically need even more sleep. So that's good goals to have when you're looking at those and looking at expectations of how much sleep you should get. And then as far as like making up on the weekends and you touched on it, it's a terrible idea. You can't do it. Your sleep, they call it sleep debt. And it works more it's more exponential than just cumulative. So if I only slept for 4 hours Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I got 6 or 7 on Thursday, Friday, and then I slept for 12 hours, Friday night and Saturday night, I'm still going to be exhausted and tired. You're still not going to make that up.
Right.
It's going to take probably a couple of weeks of you sleeping in a normal amount of time for you to really feel better as far as that goes. But you were spot on with the trying to go to bed at the same time, get up at the same time every day, regardless of what's going on. That works best for your body.
So let me ask you this. You do these sleep studies. Why don't you just kind of walk us through what we would expect, say if we were having an issue with sleep, what could we expect with a sleep study?
Okay, so if you're having a sleep study, you're going to come in, and typically the sleep center is going to be set up more like a bedroom. It's not going to look like a hospital room. Usually there's anywhere from a full size to a queen size bed in there. You're going to be hooked up to lots of different wires, about 30 or so different electrodes. So you've got things on top of your head to monitor your EEG and your brain waves. You've got leads on your face to monitor your eye movement, and then just muscle tone around your chin. You're going to have a couple of cannulas in your nose to monitor whether you're breathing, and then you'll have some respiratory bands around your chest and your abdomen to monitor your breathing. Then also a couple of leads on your legs to monitor if you're moving your legs at night.
I would never be able to go to sleep with all that stuff there.
So I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
But let's see, I've been doing this for about 16 years. And over that period of time, I've had maybe 3 patients that really didn't sleep. Now, you might not sleep well, and you might not sleep, it might take you longer to fall asleep and things like that. But as far as sleeping, you will eventually fall asleep. People forget, shockingly enough, that we're monitoring them on video as well, just for safety purposes. Make sure you don't get up out of bed, sleepwalk, that kind of thing. And they'll do weird stuff in the room. But yeah, we'll leave that there. But yeah, we're monitoring you. The tech's going to be awake all night watching you and scoring the study and preparing a report for the doctor in the morning. But it's usually 1 or 2 nights, if we're testing you for sleep apnea, which is where you stop breathing or have some breathing limitations at night, then the usual typical treatment for that would be a CPAP titration. So, which is the machine. A lot of people, I guess, they're more common now. People usually know what I'm talking about when I say CPAP machine.
Mm-hmm.
It's continuous positive airway pressure. So you wear a mask, and it has a machine that blows air that keeps your airway open all night while you're asleep.
Okay.
But then there's other things. There can be the leg movements, restless leg syndrome, and then just a variety of other sleep disorders we're usually monitoring to try to just see what's going on. That's generally what the initial sleep study is about. It's just finding out what's going on. We're not really sure. Because again, if you're doing everything else correctly, then there must be something abnormal that's going on.
Okay. Awesome, man. I guess we'll wrap it up there.
Okay.
Unless you had anything else you wanted to
add? Not really. Just, like you said, sleep is very, very important. If you're wanting to do well in your job or in CrossFit or anything else, if you're not sleeping well, that's going to affect everything in your life. So it's more important than we'll give it credit for. You spend a vast majority of your life asleep. So you need to make that a priority as far as taking care of that. whether it's making sure you have a mattress that's comfortable or you have everything set up right, that, if you're working night shift, that you're setting your bed up where you've got blackout curtains so you can actually sleep when it's dark and things like that. So it's just all kinds of things. It's something that's very important, and usually gets kind of pushed to the back burner when people talk about it. Being healthy, sleep is kind of the last thing that comes up. So
Cool. How's your fitness going?
fitness is going pretty well. Actually,
Going back to the games?
Oh yeah, right. Just changed to a different CrossFit place here in Atlanta. So it's going pretty well. I definitely miss you all down there. You all are by far the best coaches I've had.
Thank you.
So not just sucking up on that one, but legitimately the best coaches we've had. Just explaining things, working with me individually when needed. So this new place seems to be a little more, as far as coaching, lines up with kind of how you all coach as well. So we'll see how that goes. But it's been going pretty well for the most part.
Good deal, man. We look forward to you taking a vacation down at the beach again.
Definitely. I'll have to come down there and work out with you guys and run there in the heat. It does give me some I tell people now when they start complaining about how hot it is when we go for a run, I'm like, oh, this isn't hot.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah, they don't know about a 112 degree temperature with 100% humidity.
Yeah, no. And I came after you all had left CrossFit Heat Strokes. So
yeah, didn't even get the worst of it. All right, Adam, we appreciate your time, man. And we look forward to hearing from you again. Stop by and see us sometime.
Definitely will. Thank you.